Okay. Hey. So I had this video, right? I think I had answered a question last week about Subhash Chandra Bose, and I said that the question was, Mr. Bose failed, but why do we still admire him? And I had given an answer to that. You can look it up. It's available as a short clip on this channel. So lots of people got upset with that, about that. They are all saying, so let's see what people are saying. Yeah, Devdeep is saying, why do you think he failed? Kindly answer that. It is so wrong on so many levels to say that he failed. Answer, please. Gator said he succeeded. The British lost. No, the battle was lost, but the war was won. Without his contribution, Independence Day would certainly have been deferred by a few years. Bijoy says, who said Netaji failed? He gives freedom to India. Vijay says, because of him, we got independence. The fear of Azad Hind Fauj in the British. Paras says Netaji succeeded as India got independence due to the mutiny and so on. And Mera Pet says, correct yourself. Fact is, his idea in ultimate sacrifice led to India's freedom in the late 1940s. All right. All right. So everyone, so lots of people, not everyone, but lots of people are saying that I am wrong. Mr. Bose did not fail. He gave India independence and so on and so forth. Okay. That's what you say. Now let's take a look at this from a different perspective. What were Subhash Chandra Bose's objectives? What were his stated objectives? He tried being a politician. He was the president of the Indian National Congress, right? In the Congress party. Mr. Gandhi outmaneuvered him, played a political coup against Mr. Bose, and he was ejected. He had to resign, right? Because he lost political support. That's the game Mr. Gandhi played against him. Mohandas Gandhi. So Mr. Bose saw that when it comes to the Indian National Congress, they did not support, they did not have the same vision as Mr. Bose had for India. They wanted cooperation with the British. They wanted independence for India whenever it happens on the terms set by the British and the terms set by Mr. Gandhi and Mr. Nehru. That's what the Indian National Congress was a vehicle for. It was a vehicle for the eventual transfer of power from the British to a bunch of Indians on the terms set by the British, which would include partition and destruction of India's territorial integrity. Yeah, those demands for partition, etc., were already in the air at the time. So Mr. Bose decided to dissociate himself from the Congress party. He formed the Forward Bloc, and then he went into exile. He escaped from house arrest, and his objective then became to secure independence from the British for India through military means. Complete Sampurna Swaraj. Sampurna Swaraj, not some stupid transfer of power on the terms set by the British. No partition. A complete erasure, annihilation of all the harm the British had done to India. Yes, these people are saying we got independence. You call that independence? It was a transfer of power from one set of crooks to another set of crooks. But the British interests remained in India. You think Mr. Nehru's prime minister was independence for India? You think that's independence? You think the 1946? Yeah, we had a mutiny and all that, but that did not work, right? Obviously, the constitution that India got. You think that is independence? It is a continuation of the 1935 legislation of the British. The laws that the British had written remained in place. The Indian Penal Code dates back to 1860, I think, 1830, whatever it is. Look it up. Nothing changed. All the stooges the British had built up over time in India, they retained their positions of power and prestige after our so-called independence. And the common people who had lost everything, they still have nothing. Before the Riot Act, RYOT, Riot Worry Act, that the British legislated, almost all Indians had some land. Indians always had land. The British took it away and gave it over to the Zamin. The process started with the Mughals, with the Turks, the Zamindari system of taking away land from Indians and putting the land in the hands of these tax collectors and thugs called zamindars. And many Indians were part of that, the so-called zamindars, the Thakors, etc. Yeah, and the British took that further with the Riot Worry Act, and they took away all the ancestral land from whoever, from whatever was left of the Indian population. More than, I don't know how many millions, hundreds of millions of Indians had their land usurped from them because of this act. So after independence, if it is real independence, should the land not be given back to Indians? Nothing of that happened. The same laws continued, the same institutions continued. The people who were in power, their descendants are still in power today in various Indian institutions. Yeah. You do you really think that was independence? Celebrating something on August 15th, do you think that is real independence? The education system never changed. We are still being taught fake history. If Mr. Bose had come to power, he would have stopped all that. He would have created a new system. He would have given you Sampurna Swaraj. You are so blindfolded right now, you don't even realize that you are not free. Right? That is the problem. Mr. Bose, his objective was to give India Sampurna Swaraj and to evict the British through force from India, destroy the institutions of oppression that they had constructed, and recreate India from scratch. That's what his objectives were. If you were to ask Mr. Bose, do you think you succeeded or failed? What do you think he would say? Mr. Bose was a man of standards. The problem with you all is that you don't have standards. Unfortunately, it's sad to say this. If India is to, I get this question every day in the comments. When will India become a superpower? Do you think India will become a superpower when you have low standards? If you want India to become a superpower, raise your standards. Raise your standards to the standards that Mr. Bose had for himself. And then we may have a chance. With this attitude, nothing is going to change in India. If you were to ask Mr. Bose, he would be the first to say that I failed in achieving my objectives. Yes, it hastened India's so-called transfer of power, independence, transfer of power. But what was the result of that? The results that he wanted have still not materialized. So yes, Mr. Bose failed. And if it offends you, so be it.